September 1989, 43 women around the world gave birth. None of these women had been pregnant when the day first began.
How much do you want for it? I have adopted 6 children, gifted with abilities far beyond the ordinary. I give you the Umbrella Academy.
Does anyone wish to speak?
He was a monster.
Everything about our family is insane. It always has been.
Is that my skirt?
Oh, yeah, this. It's very breathy on the bits.
Nice to see nothing's changed. I jumped forward and got stuck in the future. Do you know what I found? Absolutely nothing.
When's it supposed to happen?
In 8 days.
Oh, shit.
Ground. There's someone out there who's trying to stop me from preventing the apocalypse.
We need the full force of the Academy.
Bingo.
Yay, sisters.
Aloha! This is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man, coming to you live once again from beautiful Hawaii here on the island of Oahu, bringing you, yes you, the best movie and TV show reviews on the entire island of Oahu. And yes, this is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man. And today, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about a Netflix television show called The Umbrella Academy. And see, this dropped, I think, last weekend, maybe close to 2 weekends ago. And it is from Netflix. It is 10 episodes. And let's just get this out of the way. It is, you know, the next evolution of comic book television shows or Netflix series since Marvel, you know, since the Netflix Marvel shows have been pulled. And, well, without any more, remember our rating scale, shock a thumbs up. It's good to see, I recommend it. Shock a thumbs down. It's junk, I don't recommend it. And for Netflix's The Umbrella Academy, it is a strong shock a thumbs up. My goodness. For only 10 episodes, this series was fabulous. If you take all of the entirety of the Netflix Marvel shows and you wrap them all together, including Defenders, where they're supposed to act as a team and work together, you would just barely come close to scratching the surface of the Umbrella Academy. So basically this entails 7 to 6 members of special, gifted children who grew up learning to use their powers as a force for good by, yes, you guessed it, a rich, eccentric old man, very much along the lines of a Professor X and the X-Men. These children were born with special abilities, special powers, and this man gets them together at that young age and learns, you know, teaches them how to harness and use their powers for the most part. But what he cannot teach them is how to be well adapted kids growing up. They face the same, developmental problems as any other kids, socially inept, mainly, even more so due to their own special abilities. Many of them look normal until they use their powers. Until other things happen to them later in adults where they look completely different, more much so like, the outside realm of those X-Men mutants, in fact. And basically they have to try to deal with one another as a family, how to get along with the world, and how to live in the world, and decide whether or not they want to continue to use their powers as a force of good. Now, this stars Ellen Page, Tom Hopper, David Castaneda, Emily Ramper-Lampman, Robert Sheehan, and Aidan Gallagher. All of which have been on other shows, but I haven't even, I didn't recognize anybody, and nobody stood out to me except for Ellen Page, who, of course, from the famous show, movie Juno, where she got her major start. But she actually turns out to be the focus of this show, the driving cause of this show. But, kind of as a secondary reason for that, though. She certainly does not set out to be, the instrument of the apocalypse. As, many years ago, back when these children were first born, this old man called Reginald Harkness, a billionaire, eccentric billionaire, on a single day back in the 80s, I believe, 49 children were born all at the same time, all over in different places throughout the world. And what makes this remarkable, he states in the introduction of the very first episode, is that none of these women having these children were pregnant at the start of the day. So all of a sudden this is something miraculous, and so he gathers, using his multitude of riches, he gathers as many children as he can, which is 7 of them, and discovers that, as he suspected, because of the mysterious effects of their birth, they are in fact special, gifted, powered individuals. All save one, Ellen Page's character, number 7, and he names them initially, by number of how he picks them up, essentially, number 1 through 7. So Ellen Page, number 7, or as she calls herself, Vanya, her own name, doesn't seem to have any powers. But he gathers them in hopes to train them to save the world against unknown threats, but deep down he knows, in the end, the ultimate goal is to stop the apocalypse from taking place. Number 5 can travel through space as a teleporter, very much like a Nightcrawler character, very much like a Blink character. However, he can also displace himself through time, but he gets stuck in time. He gets stuck early on in the apocalypse, and he has to live through the apocalypse, survive in the apocalyptic wasteland, and piece together through many, many years, 58 years in fact, how this occurred and how he can go back in time with his family to try to prevent it. And so this is part mystery, part action, super-powered hero show, and the fight scenes, the martial arts in this are phenomenal. The use of the powers is, once again, somewhat sparingly, but they definitely, when it happens, they do not skimp like the Marvel shows, especially Jessica Jones, where they would stop, and pretty much not show you a damn thing. Here they show everything, especially when number 5's time traveling, especially when he's jumping through time. The sets are all wonderfully filmed. The house that they train and grow up in, to number 5's time jumps, to even, number 4's time jumps, I believe. He is also called the Seance, with the ability to speak with dead people. he inadvertently travels through time. You know, you'll have to watch the show to find out, for no spoilers here. But, you know, and events occur to him that are very life-changing, in fact. You'll definitely want to check out the show. Season 1, episodes 1 through 10 are fabulous. I could not get through the show fast enough. Believe me, I really wanted to save it and savor it. You know, and I could have done a whole 13 episodes like the Marvel ones, but I guess they wanted to set it apart and just do groups of 10, and it works. The whole entire story flows. It is an action romp, very much almost in line with a Tarantino-esque kind of feel to it, especially with a couple of our main villains for the show, Cha-Cha and Hazel. Yes, their names are Cha-Cha and Hazel, and they seem very Pulp Fiction-ish in this. And that's all I'll tell you about them. But even they are a delight to see on screen, despite the despicable things that they do, all in the guise of doing their job. So yeah, definitely go and check it out. Netflix spared no expense on this show, and the special effects show it, and I hope they continue that well into season 2, which they've already started working on, which hopefully will drop, if not next year, then maybe earlier, hopefully, because I can't wait. I went through all 10, and I could have just turned around and binged the whole second season right there and then. So yeah, go ahead and check it out. You know, this was written as a graphic novel, a comic book by Gerald Way, who's actually a musician for the band, the lead singer, I guess, for a band called, what is it? Chemical Romance. And, you know, he's obviously multi-talented. His stories are fantastic, great. You'll definitely want to check it out. And I am so glad that Netflix picked up this series. And he's looking at maybe 8 more seasons, or at least 7 more seasons in this. And if things go as well as the first 10 episodes in season 1, and seeing how season 2 will pan out, I say, hey, bring on all 8 seasons of the Umbrella Academy. It's kind of a mix of X-Men meets the British Avengers, if you remember that old 60s, 70s show. And yes, they did try to do a reboot in the early 80s, which didn't quite fly, with John Steed, Emma Peel being the most known. It does have that kind of British feel to it. I believe the comic was set in Britain itself, from what little of the comic that I've read. But here in this one, it is set in the United States. I think it's kind of like a New York, Maine kind of area, where it mostly takes place at. But it still holds that kind of otherworldly, other cultural, British, English-like feel to it, along with the powers of the X-Men, the fact that they're children being learned or taught to harness their powers. All right, thank you so much. This is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man, here in Hawaii, on the island of Oahu, bringing you, yes you, the best TV show reviews. A little late with the Umbrella Academy, but if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. Well worth it. Shock a thumbs up all the way. All right, thank you so much, and aloha.